Hello, welcome to Study Circle. If you are preparing for any competitive exam, then this video is going to be very useful for you. So, we are going to read class 11th standard NCERT Political Science chapter 8 Secularism. This video is only for revision purpose, so it is completely the summary of this whole chapter. So, if you are new in this channel, then do subscribe, and if you like this video, then do like and share. So, let's start. So, in this video, I only tried to cover the important points. As this is a summary video, this is very useful for revision purpose. Secularism. When different cultures and communities exist within the same country, a democratic state needs to ensure equality for each of them. The concept of secularism may be applied to provide this. In India, the idea of secularism is ever present in public debates and discussions. Secularism is challenged not only by clerics and religious nationalists but by some politicians, social activists, and even academics. So, secularism is a normative doctrine which seeks to realize a secular society that is one devoid of either interreligious or intra-religious domination. Secularism promotes freedom within religions and equality between as well as within religions. A state committed to the ideal of secularism needs to maintain some specific policy related to religion and religious communities. So, what is inter-religious domination? Domination. In India, the constitution declares that every Indian citizen has a right to live with freedom and dignity in any part of the country. Many forms of exclusion and discrimination continues to persist. For example, more than 2,700 Sikhs were massacred in 1984 riots. Next is members of one community are targeted and victimized on account of their religious identity. Some incidents are instances of religious persecutions. Secularism is first and foremost a doctrine that opposes all such forms of interreligious domination. So, what is intra-religious domination? Separation and loss are endemic to the human condition. Religion, art, and philosophy are responses to some sufferings. Secularism is not anti-religious. Secularism is not anti-religious. So deep-rooted problems of religion is when religion is organized, it is frequently taken over by its most conservative faction, which does not tolerate any dissent. Religious fundamentalism is a part of the US has become a big problem and endangers peace both within the country and outside. Many religions fragments into sects which leads to frequent sectarian violence and persecution of dissenting minorities. Religious domination cannot be identified only with inter-religious domination. It takes another conspicuous form, namely intra-religious domination. As secularism is opposed to all forms of institutionalized religious domination, it challenges not merely inter-religious but also intra-religious domination. So, what is secular state and the need of secular state? The need of secular state is that religious discrimination can be prevented by working together for mutual alignment and education. Individuals' examples of sharing and mutual help can also contribute towards reducing prejud- prejudice and suspicion between communities, but these are not enough. In modern societies, states have enormous public power and their functioning is bound to make a crucial difference to the outcome of any struggle to create a society less ridden with inter-community conflict and religious discrimination. And for this reason, we need to see what kind of state is needed to prevent religious conflict and to promote religious harmony. So, what are the steps preventing dominations of any religious group by state? State must not run by head of any particular religion. If we value peace, freedom, and equality, religious institution and state institution must be separated. The theocratic states, such as papal states of Europe in medieval times, lacking separation between religious and political institutions, are known for their operations and reluctance to allow freedom of religion to members of other religious groups. So, there is a little scope for internal dissent or religious equality. Many more theocratic states continue to have a close alliance with the particular religion, such as the state in England in the 16th century was not run by a priestly class but clearly favored the Anglican Church and its members. So, to be truly secular means that a state must not only refuse to be the theocratic but also have no formal or legal alliance with any religion. A secular state must be committed to principles and goals which are at least partly derived from non religious sources. These ends should include peace, religious freedom, freedom from religiously grounded oppressions, discrimination, and exclusion. To promote these ends, the state must be separated from organized religion and its institution for the sake of some of these values. The nature and extent of separation may take different forms depending upon the specific values and the way in which these values are spelled out. So, what are the Western modern of secularism? In Western modern of secularism, it is best represented by the American state. First, the clear separation. Neither theocratic nor do they establish any religion. In most commonly prevalent conception, separation of religion and state is understood as mutual exclusion. The state will not intervene in the affair of religion, and the religion will not interfere in the affairs of the state. Independent jurisdiction, such as each has a separate sphere and no policy of the state can have an exclusively religious rationale. No religious classification can be the basis of any public policy. State cannot aid any religious institution. It cannot give financial support to educational institutions run by religious communities, nor can it hinder the activities of religious communities as long as they are within the broad limits set by the law of the land. For example, if religious institution forbids a woman from becoming a priest, then the states can do little about it. Interpretation of liberty interprets freedom and equality in an individualist manner. Liberty is the liberty of individuals, and equality is equality between individuals. There is no scope for the idea that a community has the liberty to follow practices of its own choosing. There is a very little scope for community based rights or minority rights. So, what is focused on? Focused on intra-religious domination. The history of Western societies tells us that most Western societies were marked by a great deal of religious homogeneity. While strict separation of the state from church is emphasized to realize, among other things, individual freedom, issues of inter-religious of minority rights, equality are often neglected. There is no place for idea of state-supported religious reform. Separation of state from church religion entails a relationship of mutual exclusion. Here is the Indian model of secularism. In Indian secularism is fundamentally different from Western secularism and does not focus only on church-state separation, and the idea of inter-religious equality is crucial. In Indian model of secularism, inter-religious tolerance. Indian secularism arose in the next of deep religious diversity and is predated the advent of Western modern ideas and nationalism. There was already a culture of inter-religious tolerance in India. Tolerance is compatible with religious domination and may allow some space to everyone, but such freedom is usually limited. Tolerance allows you to put up with people whom you find deeply repugnant, but this is not a great virtue in times of peace where people are struggling for equal dignity. Result of an interaction between Indian idea of religious diversity and Western idea. Western modernity brought to the fore hitherto neglected and marginalized notions of equality in Indian thought. It helped us to focus on equality within the community and also ushered ideas of inter-community equality to replace the notion of hierarchy. So, what is the? It ushered the ideas of inter-community equality to replace the notion of hierarchy. It resulted in equal focus on intra-religious and inter-religious domination. It focus on intra-religious and inter-religious domination. For example, Indian secularism equally opposed to the oppression of women within Hinduism and the discrimination against women within Indian Islam or Christianity. So, what are the deals with religious freedom of minorities? An individual has the right to profess the religion of his or her choice, and religious minorities also have the right to exist and to maintain their own culture and educational institutions compatible with state supported religious reform. For example, the Indian constitution bans untouchability and the Indian state has enacted several laws abolishing child marriage. India remains secular despite state initiated reforms. The secular character of Indian state is established by virtue of the fact that it is neither theocratic nor has it established by many or multiple religions. It has adopted a very sophisticated policy in pursuit of religious equality, which allows it either to disengage with religion in American style or engage with it if required. State may engage with religion negatively to oppose religious tyranny. This is reflected in such actions as the ban on untouchability. State may choose a positive mode of engagement. The Indian Constitution grants all religious minorities the right to establish and maintain their own educational institutions. It cannot be captured by equal respect to all religions. Secularism is much more than mere peaceful coexistence or toleration. Allows for principal state intervention in all religions. Such intervention betrays disrespect to some aspect of every religion. For example, religiously sanctioned caste hierarchies are not acceptable within Indian secularism. The secular state does not have to treat every aspect of every religion with equal respect. So criticism of Indian secularism is that it is anti-religious. Criticism, it is often argued that secularism is anti-religious. Secularism is against institutionalized religious domination, which is not the same as being anti-religious. Argument that secularism threatens religious identity. Secularism promotes religious freedom and equality, and it clearly protects religious identity rather than threatens it. Of course, it does not undermine some forms of religious identity like violent, fanatical, and those which foster hatred of other religions. The real question is whether what is undermined is intrinsically or worthy or unworthy. So, what is Western import of secularism is that criticism is that secularism is linked to Christianity, that is Western and therefore unsuited to Indian conditions. And the strange complaint is that there are millions of things in India like parliamentary democracy that have their origin in the West. A secular state must have end of its own. Western states become the secular when they challenge the control of established religious authority over social and political life. The Western model of secularism is not, therefore, a product of the Christian world. Idea of separation can be interpreted differently by different societies. The mutual exclusion of religion and state is also not defining feature of all secular states. A secular state may keep a principal distance from religion to promote peace between communities, and it may also intervene to protect the rights of specific communities. Indian secularism, not an impart of West, but for example, the idea of church-state separation is central in West, whereas the idea of peaceful coexistence of different religious communities has been important in India. So, what is minoritism? Criticism of minoritism is that it is true that Indian secularism advocates minority rights. Voting as a democratic procedure is insufficient for fundamental interests. A person has a prior right to the satisfaction of his or her significant interest. The most fundamental interest of minority must not be harmed and must be protected by constitutional law. The Indian Constitution provides minority rights as long as these rights protect their fundamental interests. Minority rights are necessary as special privileges. Minority needs to be treated with the same respect and dignity with which all others are being treated. These need not to be these need not be nor should be viewed as special privileges. So what is interventionist? Criticism of interventionism is that secularism is coercive and it interferes excessively with the religious freedom of communities, but this misreads Indian secularism, rejecting the idea of separation as mutual exclusion. Indian secularism rejects non interference in religion, but it does not follow that it is excessively interventionist. It follows the concept of principal distance. It allows for non interference, and besides, interference need not automatically mean coercive interventions. Coercive interventions. Indian secularism permits state supported religious reforms, but this should not be equated with a change imposed from above with coercive intervention. So, what is Indian secularism permits state supported religious reforms, but this should not be equated with the change imposed from above with the coercive interventions. Not reforming personal laws of all religious communities. So, dilemma faced by India is that a secularist might see the personal laws or law concerning marriage, inheritance, etc., as manifestation of community-specific rights that are protected by the constitution, or see this law as an affront to the basic principles of secularism on the ground that they treat some members unequally. Personal, personal laws can be seen as manifestation of freedom from inter-religious domination or as instances of intra-religious domination. Personal laws can be reformed in such a way that they continue to exemplify both minority rights and equality between men and women. State must act as facilitator. Such reforms should neither be brought about by state or group coercion nor should the state adopt a policy of total distance from it. The state must be support liberal and democratic voice within their every religion. So what is vote bank politics? Criticism of vote bank politics is that secularism encourages the politics of vote banks. This is not entirely false, but it needs to put in perspective. Politicians are bound to seek votes. The real question is what precisely the vote is sought for, that is, promotes solely his self interest or for the welfare of the group in question. If secular politicians who sought the votes of minorities manage to fulfill their aspirations, then this is a success of the secular project. New injustice. If the welfare of the group in question is sought at the cost of the welfare and rights of other groups, there is nothing wrong with the vote bank politics, but only with a form of vote bank politics that generates injustice. Impossible project. The criticism of impossible project is that secularism cannot work because it tries to do too much to it tries to do too much to find a solution to intractable problem. Problem is that people with deep religious differences will never live together in peace. An empirically false claim. Coexistence under condition of inequality is indeed possible. Everyone could find a place in a hierarchically arranged order. This will not work when equality is increasingly becoming a dominant cultural value. Indian secularism mirrors the future of the world due to migration of people from the former colonies to the West, and the increased movement of the people across the globe are beginning to resemble India in the diversity of cultures and religions which are present in their societies. Interesting point is that secularism in Interesting point of this chapter is that secularism in Turkey. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk implemented secular state in Turkey after First World War. It was not about principal distance from organized religion, and it involved active intervention and suppression of religion. So what it include that it active intervention in and suppression of religion. He came to power after the First World War and was determined to put an end to the institution of Khalifa in the public life of Turkey. He set out in an aggressive manner to modernize and secularize Turkey, such as the Fez cap was banned by the Het law. The Western or Gregorian calendar replaced the traditional Turkish calendar. In 1928, the new Turkish alphabet in a modified Latin form was adopted. Nehru won secularism. Equal protection by the state or religion does not favor one at the expense of other and does not itself adopt any religion as the state religion. Secularism did not mean hostility to any religion. Nehru was not in favor of complete separation between religion and state. Secularism for him meant a complete opposition to communalism of all kinds. So, what is the meaning of theocratic? A state governed directly by a priestly order is called theocratic. So, this is the summary of this whole chapter. If you like this video, then do like, share, and subscribe this channel. We need your support. Thank you.